Today is Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. This meeting is being video and audio recorded for future cable broadcasts. Please silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance before we make a motion to open the meeting. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to open the meeting, please?
So moved. To open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're going to move on to the approval of minutes, payrolls, and warrants. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th, 2022?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. May I have a motion to approve the payroll and warrants?
Approval. I make a motion to approve the payroll and warrants as presented to us.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. Any delegation?
There's no delegation.
There's no delegation. Very good. Thank you. There is also no old business on the agenda, so we are going to move into new business. Dr. Bailey, your report?
Okay. I'll start out with the personnel report. As you can see from last month, we have hired 3 new staff members and we've had 1 resignation, and that's it. Does anybody have any questions regarding the personnel report? Okay. Next, I'd like to talk about the substitute teacher rates. During COVID, the committee decided to raise the rates. We raised them for non-certified substitute teachers $100 per day. For certified teachers, $125 per day. And we'd like to keep those rates to keep the substitutes coming. And that is in line with many other area districts. So I just thought, since we said we would revisit it after COVID, if we could have a vote. I'm asking the committee to vote on maintaining those rates at this point, and we'll continue to look at it. But it would be $100 for non-certified substitutes and $125 for certified substitutes.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to keep the salaries or the pay rates for the substitute teachers.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No, it's just that we're sure that we'll get a steady stream of qualified, substitutes, because that's, essential as you made that point to us.
Yes, we want to stay competitive with area districts so that we get substitutes, just like, we're on the frontline system, which is the ASOP, and substitutes can sign up in advance, not only for Acushnet openings, but other openings that have the frontline system as well. So we're right with other districts. We're in line with other districts as far as the amount. So I feel like right now we're good, but I would not want to put that back down at all.
And we did budget for this.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
it's been budgeted for. Mhm.
It should not be an issue. All right. All in
Move the
favor?
question. Aye.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? I should
Aye,
say
okay.
Aye, sorry.
Yeah.
Thought the motion was made.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the
the
motion
motion was
was
made,
made, yep,
discussion,
yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, motion passes.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out to the committee that we started sending out a district monthly newsletter. Hopefully you saw that in your email. And it's something that, for communication purposes, we wanted the folks from the central office to get more involved with the happenings of the school system and to let families know. And then we're able to track how many people are actually looking at our newsletter. So we had close to 900 people for our first newsletter views, which was great, but that will be out every month. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I think it's great. I mean, especially the pictures at the end where you can put the faces with the names. I think that is very important because there's so many parents out there that have no idea what these people look like and what they're doing. So
Yeah,
it's a very good move.
we're trying to make it more personalized, actually, so
No, it's a great
thank you.
idea.
Next, we have Mrs. Sylvia from the Ford Middle School, and she has her counselors with her and school psychologists, Casey Poulos, Christina Tatro, and Kim Trahan. They're going to talk about the social emotional learning curriculum, the SEL curriculum at Ford Middle School.
Thank you.
And Mr. Gallivan is here as well. I don't want to leave you out, Mr. Gallivan.
So we are missing the Casey Poulos from the trio, from our SEL trio. We have Christina and we have Kim here. And we thought it was important to bring to your attention the Trails curriculum that we've just started this year with our SEL group. So those of you who don't know, social and emotional learning. We cannot get their academic performance, their school engagement, their classroom behavior, their emotional health in check in an upright pathway to success if their SEL is a little off, if they're having difficulty managing their relationships or managing their decision making. So our trio really do a fantastic job with, checking in with all these kiddos every single day. Why SEL? Teachers have school-wide reach. Most mental health referrals are initiated by teachers. Not all students need a higher level of care. Not all students will access a higher level of care. Classrooms are improved by the integration of SEL, alignment of all staff building-wide. And so our group also includes Alice Owens, who goes in, and our specialists are also trained in the SEL because we only have the 3 counselors in the 5 classrooms. So everyone in the 5th grade gets their SEL instruction at the same time. We have trained more than just our counselors to give this instruction. It's a weekly instruction-based program. It is flexible, it requires minimal prep time, and all of the materials came with this program. So it was a fully comprehensive program that we purchased, one of the highest quality that is out there right now. You can see here, I wanted to put this here, that our 5th graders are receiving the 3rd and 4th grade curriculum band. So although they're at the middle school, they are getting the instruction from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade band, and then our 6th, 7th, and 8th are in their separate tier. It's really tiny, this slide. I can't, thank you. So this is the breakout. So there's 5 modules. The first one is self-awareness. Building awareness of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and learning about how they are related. So you see what's covered: mindfulness, psychoeducation, cognitive coping. Module 2, self-management. Mindfulness is covered, relaxation, opposite action. We learn how to choose behaviors that reduce the intensity of strong emotions and reduce vulnerability to negative emotions. Module 3, social awareness, psychoeducation, mindfulness, cognitive coping, development of better awareness of the thoughts and feelings of others and understanding that they can differ from their own. Module 4, relationship skills, develop the self-awareness and self-management skills to help effectively relate to others. And then Module 5, and there's 20 lessons altogether, and it is, scheduled out so that all 20 lessons will be delivered this school year. Development of skills to encourage consideration of personal values, solve problems, make good decisions, and work toward goals. That is our last slide. That is our, our Trails SEL curriculum that we have made a commitment to go with this school year and following. Questions?
Yes, I do have 2 questions. One, this program was purchased by our previous budget, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So if it wasn't for us getting the full amount and fighting for what we really wanted, this program wouldn't be intact.
Right. We
It's part
budgeted
of our
for it
strategic
last.
plan as well, to focus on the social emotional learning. We can't assume that all children come to school with these skills, and they really have to be taught, not only at the elementary level, but at the middle school level. So it's like navigating relationships and such, and valuable life skills, so that when they leave school someday, they're able to function in society, whether it's the workplace or in family situations, relationships, whatever. And I know the counselors are in the classrooms conducting these lessons. I don't know if you want to say a few words about how, how it's been with this new curriculum this year.
So far we've been through all four of the grades, so 5th through the 8th, and the kids seem engaged with the lessons. There's some opportunity for them to interact with each other and have some group work, and it's just really good to give them the foundation skills, and it's something that we'll be able to follow up with hopefully throughout the next couple of years and really get them to just learn those skills and have them out in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in addition to health class and what's going on.
yes.
Because this is also covered in health, some of it's probably covered in health class. And
Is because try to be covered 24/7 here at the
Right.
middle school. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is an addition where the counselors actually go in and give the instruction to the students, yes. So
And
this is an addition.
if parents are curious to know what all of this is, are they able to get access to it as well?
Sure,
If
I could
requested.
actually probably just include this in my next newsletter. Because all those 5 modules, those 20 lessons, that's really, but yes, I can.
I
we
think
can
it
add
would
the
be
link.
nice to
Absolutely.
communicate this
Okay.
with parents
Mhm.
of what we're doing.
And we don't want people to think that the counselors are sitting counseling students in offices all
No.
day. They're actually out in the hallways and classrooms, teaching lessons, and obviously they
lunch.
interact and follow up with the students in their regular schedules.
I have to
So-
say, I'm impressed with what Ford Middle School is doing when it comes to social and emotional skills, because I've heard from so many parents and other people in administration in other school districts, and we are so much higher than what other districts are doing, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding this?
And I will say, Mrs. Betancourt, who's the Director of Student Services, is constantly singing their praises. She's saying how, what a strong clinical staff we have at our school. So I feel very fortunate that we have a great, strong team to lead this work. And again, it being a new curriculum, they were open to it and just jumped right in, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for your work.
Yes.
Job well done, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Saul here, who is going to be speaking to us about the Lions Club, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here to speak tonight. When the Lions Club first started, I believe it was 1917, they really didn't have any kind of a purpose, and it wasn't until Helen Keller spoke at one of their international conventions that she asked the Lions to become the Knights of the Blind. And since then, we've taken that up as our cause, and the majority of our fundraising goes to prevent blindness. It also goes into diabetes awareness and other things that have to do with the eyes. In Massachusetts, we actually have a Massachusetts Lions Eye Research where we send seed money to the hospitals up in Boston, and that helps the researchers get the data that they need to get those national grants to fund all sorts of research and prevent blindness. So sight is our big deal, and it always has been. And it came up this year that I was contacted by the guidance counselors at the middle school that we had a student that was in need of glasses. And the parents could not afford those glasses, and kind of looking at the prices, I believe it was like $600 for the lenses alone, let alone the actual frames that go with it. So those prices are climbing very high as well. But in Massachusetts, we have a program called One Sight. And this One Sight program works with lens crafters. We went through lens crafters in Dartmouth. They were very, very helpful. This is the first time that I've ever gone through this program and had to work this. So they showed me what to do, how to give them the letterhead and all of the other things that they needed. And as long as a family is qualified for this One Sight program, we can get them glasses for free. And so we have a student now at Ford Middle School that was not going to be able to have glasses, could not see in the classroom, who now is going to get what they need to be successful in the classroom. So it's a program that I kind of wanted to promote and let people know that it's out there. You do have to qualify for the financial part of that One Sight, but if there's anybody in Acushnet schools who needs glasses that can't afford glasses, I am now the chairperson of this for the club. You know how that works. You do it once or you don't show up, you become the chair.
You're voluntold.
Yes, exactly. So I have been named the chairperson for the Acushnet Lions Club to do for the One Site program. In the elementary school, Jared Alves is also an Acushnet Lion, so the guidance counselors there can talk with him and we can kind of coordinate. And for the high school level, if anybody in the high school level needs anything, the Fairhaven Lions Club is very, very active, so Fairhaven High School can maybe reach out to them. And the Rochester Lions Club is also very, very active, so anybody at Old Colony that might need help, those would be places to go to. But if they can't help out, the Acushnet Lions are very willing to help out any kind of student that needs glasses so that they can be able to see in class and again, be successful with their academics.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Mr. Saulnier. You must feel really good.
Oh, it was
So
great just to
rewarding.
go there because we thought we were willing to pay for the glasses, but then when I went to LensCraft and they said no, as long as they pick from these certain frames and they had whatever 10, 20 options, then they would pay for it for free. So they were able to get a really good pair of glasses for absolutely nothing for the family.
And we know that lenses are expensive, and to know that a child is seeing clearly every day in class because of your efforts, it's very much appreciated. And I appreciate you sharing this message because you don't know who's going to see this
Exactly.
and who might need help.
Yep.
I think it's a great program. Thank you so much. Does anybody on the committee have any questions or comments?
Can we put this out in the newsletters?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, we put it out on our newsletter.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get more like concrete information about the One Site program or maybe
Okay.
send a link to wherever that is on the Lions websites and
If you want to just forward it to me,
Yeah.
I'll get it into a newsletter.
definitely.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Great,
Mrs.
thank you.
Sonia, great job.
Thank you.
Okay, that was nice. All right, in your package, you have a technology update from Mr. Missler. He would be here tonight, but he is, I don't think he would mind me telling you, he's on baby watch. We're expecting any moment a call from him. It's his first child, so he did include a report. I don't want to read this whole thing to you, but you'll see that from the last month, he's done quite a bit. He has a formal inventory in place with a tagging system now. Everything gets inventoried before it gets deployed. A comprehensive enterprise security platform has been deployed, which handles threat detection, threat hunting, all assisted prevention and response, and it basically protects our district data. Multi-factor authentication has been rolled out to all district staff for the email, so we have to sign in different ways for our protection. Phishing detection has been enabled to properly set up the district to block and mitigate phishing attacks. This is the first step in the email protection, and in the future he will work on providing PD and awareness to all staff and teachers to help identify, report, and avoid becoming a victim. We've actually saved some money in this. We've removed 3 software solutions or vendors that are not needed in the district, and this has resulted in a savings of over $24,000. And again, we can use that money to put forth towards the infrastructure that we talked about last month that will be needed. So he's been working on that. He talks about E-rate. District firewall is now in good working order. Security protocols that were previously not deployed, which could have resulted in inappropriate web access for staff and students, are now all secure. Backing up, our email system is backed up properly and set up to be retained for over 7 years to meet state requirements. And then our servers are also in the process of being backed up to the cloud, which gives us both on-premises backups and cloud-based backups, and this meets industry standards. So he's got some notes there that we are secure. He's continuing to look at everything in depth within the department, but you will see from his report that he is very busy getting everything done for us, and we're really happy with what's been happening with that. Does anybody have any questions about the technology update from Mr. Missler?
I just want to say I'm impressed with all of these things that are now being done that I assumed were always being done. So it's very nice to have this update here and just seeing that now we are meeting state requirements that we weren't previously. So, and saving money as well. So kudos to him for doing a job well done, and we're glad we have him. So thank you.
Excellent. I just want to note that Mr. Hood has joined us.
Yep, I had it 6:02.
Okay.
I have a question. Is any of this related to the technology audit? I think some of these were, right?
Yeah.
Just non, I guess, budgetary issue items.
Right, so what he is actually working on, he's actually working on a 10-year plan that
Okay.
he will be presenting later on to us and throughout the budget process as we move forward. But he's going to outline everything for 10 years, and that will have the breakdown of how much money per year he's recommending for some of those needs that were outlined in the audit.
Is that different from the Excel spreadsheet that we had last meeting?
That's part of it, but he's
Okay.
doing it in much, believe in much more detail.
Okay.
But that is part of it.
And then has there been any progress on the phone system to
That I
become
do not
compliant with
know.
the 911?
I do know that the town is aware of the same issue with the phone system, and Mr. Missler is also aware and is working on it. I just don't know where they're at with it, but they do know that we need to be in compliance, and we're looking into a new system.
I think that was yesterday at our town meeting. They had the fiber optics grant, $250,000 that was just passed. I think that has something to do with it. I might be wrong, but
It did say phone system. I don't have it with me,
Yeah.
but it did talk about a
I
phone
think we-
system.
Cool.
once that grant goes in, then they're gonna do everything all at once.
All right, because that was a big
Huge.
money
Yes.
thing that in the audit, correct? Yeah.
The grant
Correct.
was approved yesterday at town meeting for $250,000.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, and hopefully he'll be back soon
Yep.
to
And
present.
congratulations to him. We'll say
Yeah,
this
we're
at the
still
end,
waiting.
but still.
We're still waiting.
we
Hopefully,
forget.
soon we'll get some news. Next, I have the MCAS 2022 results. Ms. Ruggieri is going to be presenting, so I'd ask that our Director of Curriculum, Instruction and Assessment come on up, and we will discuss MCAS.
And we do have slides in our
Yeah.
system.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Tonight we'll be reviewing the MCAS results for last school year. Overall, the state saw a significant decline in student performance as a result of the pandemic. Acushnet, has kind of a brighter picture to paint, which is really awesome, and I'm happy to report that. So we saw that there was much less of a negative impact, and in some cases we outperformed our pre-pandemic performance last school year.
And
So-
I will just say that across the state, I've met with the state several times on this, and, everything looks like a decline from COVID. Kids were not in school, kids were absent from school, most districts were in some type of a hybrid model, so they definitely did lose time on learning. So the trend that we see across the state is the scores are down, okay?
Yep. So this just speaks volumes to the dedication of our staff, faculty, students, families, administrators. We had kind of a unique model during the pandemic, if you'll remember, that hybrid model where even if students were at home, they were logging in and accessing their courses through Zoom. So tonight we'll review accountability and performance at the district and school building level, and then we'll compare to some of the area schools, and then we'll talk about considerations and next steps. So the accountability percentiles, this is a ranking between 1 and 99, and it's an indication of the school's performance relative to other schools within the grade band. The indicators are achievement, student growth, English language proficiency, and chronic absenteeism. So the elementary school performed quite well in this with the accountability rating. the highest that we've seen. And FMS continues to make gains.
And again, I just want to reiterate, this is all during a pandemic. So we focused on our strategic plan, we focused on our goals. The teaching and the learning was always the main focus. Our teachers had quite a bit of professional development. They had to learn how to teach in a different way. And our students were actually learning from home, sitting in front of the cameras. The teachers had the cameras, they had kids in front of them. Many districts did not do that. A lot of districts, the kids were home working on packets. So our kids, we did our very best to try not to lose that learning time. And I hope what you see tonight, it does reflect in our scores.
Yes, and we will talk a lot about how we outperform the state in many areas, and recognizing that still, there's room to grow. So just with that in mind, here is the achievement distribution for grades 3 to 8 in math, with Acushnet outperforming the state in achievement. And the achievement distribution in ELA, overall, Acushnet outperformed the state in grades 3 to 8. And now this chart is looking at, we're looking at growth and achievement. So with student growth, we're measuring, from year to year. And then, so we've got that grade, the band level there, where the 40 and the 60, the mean student growth percentile, that's kind of like the typical growth band in that area. So you either want to be falling within that band or, preferably even outside of that band, where, so you'll see the yellow there is AES, and they had both high achievement and high growth.
Exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, typical growth, like Ms. Ruggieri said, is between 40 and 59 or 60. That's where we want to be. That's typical growth. So we are right where we want to be, but the elementary school was just exceptional.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the star there is that represents kind of where the state fell, and then the red is Ford Middle School. So although slightly below the state in growth, I think we were slightly above in achievement.
Do you think, and I know you didn't break out the grades in Ford Middle School, but is it because, or do you think it's because children have such a tough time going from the elementary school model to 5th grade? Is that the decline there, or is it just on average?
Well, we can, one of the things that we really noticed was the writing actually at the middle school level. And that's something that we're focusing on addressing this year with a new writing program to really support that piece. Because with the reading and the language, like they weren't so far below, but then when you take in the writing as a factor, that's where we kind of really saw our scores drop at the middle school.
So there's not one particular grade, it's just on average.
And I'll say across the state, middle school, it lowers.
Like most middle schools have 6th, 7th, and 8th. We have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So does that lower our scores because that 5th grade has a hard time, transferring over, right? 'Cause
It could be. I mean, it could be a lot of factors, but I do know that our middle school has worked really hard, especially with the 5th grade, with the model, so that they're not having teacher to teacher to teacher anymore. They have.
Right, they are. They're staying with the same class.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So I think that's working out nicely.
Okay, so that was ELA, and now we're looking at math for grades 4 to 8. And same, kind of similarly, AES now is in red. The color changed for some reason, but AES is in red with high growth and high achievement, and then FMS had higher achievement than the state and just slightly below the state in growth. For middle school, grades 5 to 8, so we're looking at ELA here, and FMS outperformed the state in ELA, and we perform slightly below our pre-pandemic levels. When we're looking at the data from the last couple of years, it's it's best to really compare 2019 to 2022. 2021 was like a modified assessment. It was shorter than they normally are. So we're not exactly comparing the same assessments. So it has been recommended by the state that we compare the 2019 results with 2022. And then in math, FMS outperformed the state and came in slightly below the pandemic levels, the pre-pandemic levels. And now we're looking at grades 5 and 8 science. Those are the years that the middle school assesses science, grades 5 and 8, or the state assesses science. And we performed above the state in science, and we're just below our pre-pandemic levels. Acushnet Elementary School.
And I just want to go back to the science for a minute, Ms. Ruggieri, excuse me, but this is without science curriculum and all the grade levels. It's not just 5th grade and 8th grade per se, it's building up over the years of science curriculum. So this is something that the district has addressed or is addressing, and I just want to point that out. So we are starting to see movement in the right direction.
Right, so these assessments are given in grades 5 and 8, but it's assessing on, you know, the grade levels before as well. So Acushnet Elementary School, grades 3 and 4 ELA. Grades 3 and 4 outperformed the state, and similar to the state trends, there was a slight decline year over year for the last 2 years. This is very similar to what the state looked like overall. The state did a dip 2 years in a row, a dip and then another dip. And then in math, we outperformed the state and we outperformed our own pre-pandemic performance here. So that's really something. We're really pleased with these results, and we can attribute this to a lot of different factors. The teachers were just embracing all of the changes. There was a lot of professional development. Coaches and administrators regularly are meeting with teachers in collaborative meetings. They are doing a lot of data review. There's now interventionists focusing on math. Also, there's the new curriculum, pacing guides, and assessment schedules. And then I just want to talk a little bit about math academies, because we offered 3 of those in the last year. So we did 4 actually, but we did one in the summer of 2021, and then we did February, and we did in April. And those are 1-week acceleration opportunities where students get 20 hours of math instruction each week. So we had 65 seats open for those academies in grades 3 and 4, and they were filled. And so, you know, that may have contributed. They say in a math academy that it's equivalent to 1 month's worth of math instruction in the classroom, the amount of time. So I want to put that plug in there, only because we're hoping that the state continues to offer these academies. It sounds like they probably will. It's a grant opportunity, and we will try to take advantage anytime that comes up. And the elementary school students, when we offer these in families, kind of jump all over this opportunity. And then when we offer it at the middle school level, they're not taking advantage. And I do understand that it happens during vacation times, but I also think that there's a lot to be gained from participating. So if we do offer these again in the future, it would be my hope that we could get greater interest at the middle school level. Okay, and now we're comparing here Acushnet to some of the other local school districts. So we've got Marion, Mattapoisett, Rochester, Dartmouth, and Westport. And we get a mean of all of those other area schools, not including Acushnet. And so comparing the mean to Acushnet at the elementary level, we outperformed in all grade levels and subject areas. For the grades 5 to 8, We outperformed the area mean in 6. We either matched or outperformed in 6 of the 10 grade level subject areas. And now this is just kind of looking at the district 3 to 8 in ELA math and science. And overall, we outperformed the area mean. I'm not really going to take much time to review this, but just wanted to share it with you so you could see a little bit of a greater breakdown. That's a lot of information right there, but it breaks it down by the students who are exceeding, meeting, partially meeting, and not meeting for every assessment that was, MCAS assessment that was given. Okay, so in summary, AES had a significant increase in their accountability rating, with FMS having a slight increase in their accountability rating.
And I have to say, that is major during COVID. I've talked to many colleagues, and not only has districts and schools dropped, they've dropped by double digits. So the drops that other districts and schools are experiencing are significant. So the fact that we're continuing to move in the right direction, I think it's commendable to our teachers and our administrators who kept a strong focus on teaching and learning even during the pandemic. I just have to point that out.
So on average, we outperform the state in achievement in ELA and math in grades 3 to 8 and science, grades 5 and 8. AES outperformed the state in growth. FMS slightly underperformed compared to the state in growth. Acushnet elementary math performance saw greater results than pre-pandemic, and the AES scores were significantly higher than other districts in the area. And our results, when compared to pre-pandemic levels, or just in general, we do recognize that there is a continued need for growth. In considerations, we're still in the early stage of curriculum adoption, especially in some of the subjects areas. And that DESE, is recognizing that this is going to take years to recover from the pandemic. We have seen increased student absences due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we know that when students are absent from school, it dramatically can affect their performance. And that we saw students who had returned from some of the homeschool models and third-party online programming showed some significant learning gaps that we're trying to make up for. So our next steps are to continue with the curriculum adoption cycle, continue with professional development to ensure appropriate implementation, continue to follow the action steps of our strategic plan and the curriculum audit, and we're gonna, dig a little deeper and get down to the lesson plan level. We've reviewed, kind of the plan for the year and the outline for the pacing guides for the year, but working with teachers to drill down even more to the lesson level. And then we'll just continue with our assessments and using assessment-driven instruction, and we will monitor and communicate the importance of being in school with students and our partners, our families. Questions?
I just had one question. I think you mentioned we hope that the state will continue to fund some of those programs. Do we have a sense of when we would know whether they're going to continue to fund some of those programs?
Sometimes we find out about the acceleration academies with not a lot of notice, sometimes a month before or 6 weeks before. But when they put out the press release with the results of this year's MCAS, it did talk about how they would like to continue with the acceleration academies.
And the support, the additional support, because they do realize that children really did get behind due to the pandemic. So we do anticipate it. We just, again, have to wait until we're officially notified of the money. But I will say that Acushnet every opportunity that has come to us, we've taken advantage of and had those academies. So I appreciate the work you've done, Ms. Ruggieri, and I don't know if the committee has any other thoughts or questions.
I have two. First of all, I think Department of Education issued some guideline last week about dealing with some the shortfall in statewide MCAS scores was they wanted some type of concentration on youngsters in the third grade, and then try to get in individualized and intensive follow-up with those in the subsequent grades. So I think there's some and whether it applies to us or not, I don't know. But I remember reading, I should have cut out the article that I was about that because they are issuing some guidelines which may be implemented for next year. So I'm sure you'll be notified.
I think you're referring to like the early screening guidelines.
Yes.
Required early screening for early literacy and putting in curriculum that's highly rated to address literacy gaps, because those
Correct,
third
right.
grade students are the one who miss some of their crucial foundational years. But we have those screeners already in place, and we already have the high quality curricular materials in place.
When I read that and talking about the implementation of it, I was wondering if you need to employ a psychometrist in order to analyze all the, within.
It is a lot.
It's a lot to digest on that. The question I have is information available as far as MCAS scores compared with communities that have the same, very similar social and economic situation, demographics as we have, and also cost per student. Whether that information and how we can compare that information, because the state has a lot of challenges in some communities which we don't have, or not as intensified as we have. But if we get some community that has communities that have the same very similar, because we know test results are very much related to the social and economic needs of the demographics of the community. And so it allows us to basically, when we're forming a budget and any type of strategic planning, we should take that those factors into account. I think you might agree with what I'm saying.
Yes, and
I'm
we
sure.
can look at that, but we can certainly get that information on our DART communities, Ms. Ruggieri, a comparison, and get that emailed out to the school committee.
In addition to what you've already provided. So we
In
already
addition
have-
to what we've already
So we have
provided.
Dartmouth for,
Yeah, it's just their pros and cons. We know how we stand, but it's similar. And also, how would we probably afford middle school rates with, say, Elizabeth Hastings Middle School, as far as, because they're very
We
close.
saw, I'm sorry, I'm confused on what you're asking. Are you asking in addition to what Mrs. Ruggieri went over with the New Bedford, Fairhaven, Marion,
Right,
Rochester?
right.
In addition to that, you'd like other communities? as
Communities, how we rate with other, those communities that have
Diana
the
Rehoboth?
very
Is that-
similar
So,
social and
It would be
economic.
like Somerset, Berkeley. You did
Okay.
put it
Correct.
up.
So this is all available to anybody online through the
Correct.
DESE website.
It's,
So it's the DART districts.
Yeah,
And it's the schools that are most similar to us as far as grade span and enrollment and special populations. So I think there's like 10 or 12 districts, so I can get that to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's not all necessarily by area, so it may not be our neighboring districts. It is actually not our neighboring districts.
Well, it'd be good to see
Do they-
our neighboring districts as well as,
Yes, the
Right.
DART districts.
And it gives us for example, cost per student, whether we are behind in cost per student compared with those like communities, and whether it's an issue that we have to focus on.
I'm going to ask the town for more money.
I never had a problem with that, by the way.
All right. I do want to just add one thing is, when I got on this committee 7 years ago, it was told that we only needed a part-time curriculum director, if that. And I believed it for a little bit, but after seeing all the progress that we've done, all the new curriculum, a full-time curriculum director is exactly what we needed, so.
I even suggest a psychometrist to help her out.
But it is not
No, not
without
psychiatrist,
a lot of help
psychometrist.
from other people in the district. It really is not. Like it is just, there's so many moving pieces and parts to it, and it really, it's all, I think we talked, we're just all like kind of really starting to row in the same direction, and we're all working really nicely together, and it's just a good place to be. So I'm grateful for everybody that took part in
Thank you.
this.
The superintendent needed a curriculum director, and
Oh yeah, it's a
I think it's the best for our
And
community
it's
and
a
our
big
students.
part of
right
what schools
person
do now.
that role, so
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have
Good.
tonight.
And then we have the business manager's report, Mr. McIntyre.
All right, good evening, school committee, Superintendent Bailey. I have a lengthy agenda compared to normal, so I'm just gonna get to it and cruise
Yes,
right
please,
through.
Mr. McIntyre.
Please interrupt me with any questions. So I'm gonna start with the business manager's update. Fiscal _23 budget is what is as expected, business as usual. I provided you with a little chart in your packets to show you spending to date, broken out by the elementary school, the middle school, student services, and district expenses.
Excuse me, can you tell us what that was called, so we can just pop it up?
It should just be the business manager's update.
SC memo?
School committee memo, sure.
Oh, yep, thank you.
Yeah.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you, sorry.
So, again, business as usual, spending is front-loaded to the beginning of the year while we, start purchasing all our curriculum, supplies, materials. Salaries come into play in September. One large number you'll see on this table that you might question is the encumbrances for student services, $1.4 million. That's just the high school tuitions and collaborative tuitions that we encumber at the beginning of the year based on expected student enrollment and tuition rates for those schools. So moving on, as I promised last meeting, I was hoping to get you more data on our special revenue accounts and grant accounts. So this table outlines some of our special revenue revolving fund balance accounts. The preschool program that we operate is a tuition fee program. We have a balance of $38,683 in that fund. These expenses are used to support preschool aid, as well as the supplies and materials for the program. As the program kicks off and we receive payments, obviously revenues go up this year, as well as expenses as we continue the program. The elementary school has its own revolving account as well, where deposits are made based on Chromebook insurance charges, field trip charges, miscellaneous other student fees. This account has a $20,000 balance that we can use for elementary related projects. The middle school, again, similar fund just for the middle school, $38,400 balance. School lunch, which will jump out at you, has a $648,000 balance, which is great to have. It gives us a lot of possibilities with our school lunch and pricing our meals, updating our facilities, replacing, equipment. And I will get more into school lunch down the page, but as claims and reimbursements, kind of settle back down from the COVID level claim rates, you'll see this revolving account probably start getting picked away at for just funding our lunch programs, regular operations. And then last but not least, our school building rental, which is all our facility rentals, the gyms, the fields, and any other extracurricular from outside organizations that we charge for school building rental, and that fund has about $116,000 in it. These funds are available to us to to use to upgrade the facilities, the gyms, the floors, whatever encompasses the campus and the facilities, we can really use these funds for. So that's a good, reserve to have in case we have emergencies or in case we want to do upgrades that we can't get local funds or capital funds for. In addition, through research and combing through the general ledger, there are existing capital allocations that were voted at annual town meetings over the years. I summarized those in a little table there. Curriculum, technology, there's about $67,000 to update our fire and burglar alarm system. There's some capital improvement, roof maintenance, antenna replacement, school roof maintenance, resurfaced parking lots funds, and then more recently last night the Community Preservation Committee approved $125,000 for our outdoor court renovation and indoor bleachers in both gymnasiums. So again, those funds are there and appropriated to the schools for those labeled uses, and we want to make sure that we take advantage of that and use the funds appropriately. In addition, FY23 grants are underway. Our title grants have been approved to the tune of about $140,000, and then updated from this memo, our IDEA grants have just been approved as well to the tune of about $310,000. And based on the grant stipulations, those have to be spent accordingly for curriculum, special needs services, etc. Continuing on with our facilities update, sign replacement is still in progress. The electronic sign that is going to light up the neighborhood and draw some attention to the school. And
Not too
provide,
much.
Not too much. No.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
But cars will now know it's a school zone, hopefully slow down when they see the sign so that they can read it. That is actually shipping 10/28, so we hope to get that installed and up and running by mid-November anyway. And in addition, we've added the banners across both campuses, which have gotten a lot of feedback already and look great on all the utility poles.
I'm going to ask parents and anybody that comes into our parking lot to avoid looking at them while they're in motion so they don't hit anything. I have seen it is hysterical. They're like, wow! But they are very, very nice.
The AES roof replacement project is still underway. It's actually winding down. 10/18, they're going to go through their punch list process, which is really the closeout portion of the construction process. They go over everything to make sure it's satisfactory, and if there's anything that needs addressing, that'll be the time. So we expect this project to wrap up by the end of October, and that'll be a wrap, and that'll be great for the teachers that have accommodated the project, the principals, and just everyone that has had the patience to allow the workers to do what they need to do so that we get a roof over the student's head. So thank you for that. One note to the AES roof, which doesn't affect the roofing project, is the tower installation. Previously, it was voted to add an 80-foot tower to the top of AES, the top of the AES roof. This is still hitting snags with the permitting process. I'm working with the contractors daily and trying to communicate between them and the town to get us moving on this. Right now we have an interim building inspector at the town. He's doing his best to communicate to me when he can, but it's still a work in progress, and we hope that is addressed soon. Surplus property. So this is a big ticket item for me lately. We have a lot of surplus around the school. There's storage units on campus, there's closets full of supplies, there's a mezzanine that's full of supplies, and I just really want to focus on identifying what is needed and what can be identified as surplus. We're spending $500 to $1,000 on storage units a month, and it's just not necessary when it seems like we put things out there to stay and then we don't revisit them. So later in the agenda, you'll notice we have some surplus property sheets that we're hoping to receive a vote on, but this is just going to free up space throughout the school, give us more room for filing our files, to buying new supplies and organizing them properly, to making our campus look better by getting rid of the storage units and saving costs. So we're putting a high focus on this right now, and from the principal up to the superintendent, we're all involved. We're all taking a look at these items and making decisions together on whether we see us recycling these or moving on from them. Food services is great. Everyone's been happy with the services so far. Shelley's doing a great job over there, so not much to say. Our quarter P&L is due at the end of this month, which we're compiling right now. We just worked on our September claim, where we found that we served 11,125 lunches in the month of September and 1,970 breakfasts, which equaled a reimbursement of about $30,000. So that's great. We're hoping that we can increase the breakfast number to get the reimbursement a little bit higher, but we'll see, once we compile the P&L, how that program's operating on its own. And again, there's not that there's no reason for panic, but we do have that revolving account with the $650,000 some odd dollars sitting in it, so that, if we do run a deficit at any given month, there's plenty to fund it.
Just a quick question on that. Are you going to talk about food services anymore in this presentation?
No.
Okay.
No.
So can we change some of the food by chance with this extra funds that we have, with maybe more, maybe organic something or anything like that? Is that?
So it's something to consider right now. The struggle is the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Even with our regular vendors and the state-approved vendors, they're having a hard time delivering the goods in time. But we can certainly consider revamping the menu and looking at other options. It obviously has to be compliant with the nutrition program. But
The food's been great. I mean, chicken Caesar salad flies off the shelf at Ford Middle School. I didn't even know that existed there. But if there were more organic options, maybe, like especially for breakfast or something like that.
Sure, and Shelley's always taking this into consideration. Not to speak on her behalf, but she's assessing which days and what meals are more popular, how we can offer more meals that are appealing to the students so that we can get more students
Well, the
in line.
chocolate donuts are flying off the shelves. So maybe if we just like something a little bit less sugary.
Sure.
Parents would like that.
I had a question about it seems like it's been this way for a little while, where there's kind of this, let's say, quota of meals that need to be given out in order to get reimbursed certain amounts. So how does that work? Why do we need more breakfast?
No, so we don't necessarily need more, but it's advantageous for us to serve breakfast to more students and be reimbursed for those meals. The reimbursement rate continues to go up every year. I don't know it exactly, on the penny, but the idea is, to get students to participate.
Okay.
Right.
There's no minimum. There's no minimum.
Yeah,
we get locked into a contract where we're set at a rate that we get reimbursed, based on statistics that we submit, and then no matter how many students go through the line, we submit a claim based on the number of meals we've served, and that's what our
So
reimbursement
just for parents to understand, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So we sell how does it work? So we sell the food for $2 and we get $3 back. Is that?
It all depends.
I'm just
on
throwing numbers out there. But
the idea is not to make money, but to break even. But it all depends on the cost per meal. So what do the supplies cost us to put a meal on the plate, and then what is that compared to the reimbursable rate? So in a perfect world, we would build a meal that is equivalent to our reimbursable rate, and we net zero, but it would be a great, nutritious, potentially organic meal.
So if that was the case that we've been doing for the past several years, then we wouldn't have that much money in that account, correct?
Not necessarily, because again, over the years, the program's changed, the rates have changed. During COVID, with the boxed lunch and boxed breakfasts, we were boxing them, sending them away, and we were getting credit for 5 meals per box. Whether those meals were wasted, if they were taken from the table, we were able to claim them. So that was a big piece of probably what our surplus was. That was before my times, but that's what I've seen in other districts.
But that money also is to be used for if a piece of equipment breaks. I mean, I know we don't even have a dishwasher in these schools. If we needed something like that, or something that's existing, that's old, and we keep paying to repair it, it might be time to get a new piece of equipment. So that's a good use for that money as well.
We don't receive any local funds for the school lunch program, so it funds itself through these state and federal reimbursements.
Yeah, my concern for the free was really, it could be a double-edged sword, right? So for, I guess that's meant to make sure that nobody's, coming to school and starting school without having a meal, right?
Right.
But I had, I remember I came to find out my kids were
you know, they were eating breakfast at home and then they get to school.
Right, and have 6 things to do.
Then I'll have the cinnamon roll, I'll
That's what we're
have
doing.
donuts,
Yeah.
it's like, and so I'm just bringing that up because, you know, if we're trying to get reimbursements by giving out more food, it's like, you know, childhood obesity is also an issue.
No,
So,
and we're,
right?
and just to clarify, we're not
Well, they were
forcing,
wheat
we're not
donuts.
forcing meals on anyone either, you know?
No,
It's all
but the
voluntary.
the kids are
They have
able
the
to say,
option.
hey, I want a meal,
Correct.
Yeah.
regardless of parental consent.
Correct.
So that's my point, and they're not necessarily, you know, the greatest idea to give my kids sugar at 9
I
a.m.
think the teachers will second that as well.
Right, I'm sure they would.
So I'm just, all right.
And, you know, as we continue through the year, I'll have more data presented for you. I can get the rates, I can get the number of meals, you know, free, reduced, full price students. And we'll see what the trends look like, and that's what we can do.
Thank you.
So moving on, transportation. Transportation's, you know, it's cleaned up since the beginning of the year. We've had, you know, behavioral issues which come with every district, every bus, and we're dealing with them as they come. You know, the principals have been great in staying on top of those with parents. Our communications with Amaral are as best as we can right now. You know, we're contacting them often just to stay in the loop, making sure we're meeting their expectations, they're meeting ours. And we just continue to work together to provide safe transportation for our students to and from school.
You still have cameras on the bus, correct?
Yes, we have cameras on the bus. Couple of notes on Town Hall. As communicated last meeting and last night at the town meeting, there was a vote to adjust the local appropriations through the town's department. The net effect on APS was, you know, a $12,616 reduction. So that should be old news at this point. And then in addition, the Community Preservation Committee approved the $125,000 for the outside courts and gymnasium bleachers.
I know you might not have an answer to this, but when do you think we'll start working on all that stuff? Or are you gonna make a committee, or what's happening with all that?
Honestly, as we walked out of the meeting
It's just
last night,
yesterday.
we said, you know, let's get on this and let's get jumping right away. So, you know, these projects take time,
Yeah.
and we don't want to rush into anything. So we want to vet, you know, the different vendors that we have the possibility to work with, see what presentations they have, what sort of, you know, photos they have, experiences with other schools, get some feedback. So it's a lengthy process, but we're going to start right away, and we're going to just start compiling, you know, potential vendors to work with and see where it goes.
So I do know that the floors are being done Thanksgiving
Correct. Yep.
week. So we would do the bleachers after that, okay? So we'll do some prep work prior to that in terms of really securing a vendor and what we want. But I think families who come into the gym now at the middle school, the basketball players, the association who comes in, like, they're gonna have seats.
Right.
You know, we have 2 very small sections currently that are very old. We will have a whole wall of seats plus another area for seating. So we're really thankful to the taxpayers for that vote last night. I think it's going to make a big difference. The school will also be able to have assemblies and such in the gym where the students will be able to sit down, which is nice.
And in addition, we are running middle school sports programs, so that's going to allow, you know, our parents and families to come and attend the middle school sports games and be a little
Right.
more comfortable.
That's right.
And then just other business matters. The state is changing the Chapter 30B thresholds for municipal and regional school districts for supplies and services. So now we will be able to just obtain quotes for supplies and services ranging from $10,000 to $100,000. It used to be $10,000 to $50,000, and then anything over $50,000 you would need an invitation for bid or an RFP, a request for proposal. So that helps, you know, streamline things a little bit more. And that's not just any single project. That's if you spend $100,000 with the same vendor over the length of the year. You need those quotes and bids. So that's going to help us, you know, streamline things a little bit more and get moving on things that might normally take months. So that's helpful, and that'll come into effect on November 25th, 2022. So that's it for my business manager's update. I don't know if there's any other questions, comments before I move to the budget subcommittee agenda items.
Any questions?
All right, so this next section is budget subcommittee agenda items. So these items were brought to budget subcommittee last week and essentially approved by the committee to go to school committee for a vote. So first, we're going to start off with the warrant process and approval. Back in August of 2016, the Municipal Modernization Act changed the law for Chapter 41, Section 52, which essentially boils down to that school committee may designate any one of its members for the purpose of approving bills or payrolls, provided, however, that the member shall make available to the committee at the first meeting following such action a record. So this wouldn't change the responsibilities of the school committee, but what it would do is allow one school committee member to sign the payroll and payable warrants, just again to streamline the process so we can pay vendors more timely, and that's about it. We would still have to disseminate the same information to all of the school committee. It would just allow us, in a pinch or just electronically if we want to send the warrant to school committee to DocuSign because we don't have a town meeting. It's just one person and we can get that over to the town to start paying the bills. So that would require a vote by the school committee to implement, and that is what the budget subcommittee is proposing.
Can we go as we go through here?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is taking a vote now for that.
I just want to clarify that it will be the chairperson that...
So that can be determined by the school committee. The recommendation is one subcommittee member obviously being the signer and then a backup committee member. Excuse me, one school committee member and then a backup school committee member as well, yes.
Is that something that also gets voted on as well?
We can. I don't see why not. Typically, it's the chairperson or the vice chair, but we can certainly, I want to make sure that the full committee is, if this is something you're choosing to do, is in agreement with it. So you can certainly add that to the motion.
Well, let's see if we vote for this first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can discuss who are the signers
Mm-hmm.
after.
Or it could be set up, I suspect that the chairperson could designate a
Mhm.
member to.
Correct.
But then we would have to vote for that, and we would have the chairperson here. Or I am the chairperson.
Yeah, the acting chair tonight.
Okay. So how exactly should I read this to make it proper? Just a motion to accept the warrant process and approval as Mr. McIntyre.
Outlined by
Outlined.
having one signature
Okay, or just,
instead of three,
okay.
or
Yeah, that's fine. In
I'll
correspondence,
just-
general law.
The general, okay. So can I entertain a motion to have one signer with one backup signer for the warrant process and approval from going from one person, or three people signing to one person signing for all warrants? Is that- Somebody approve that motion.
I'll so move that.
Thank you, John.
Being
That
on
was
the-
painful. Thank you. All right, do we need a roll call for this?
Let me take one. Mr. Howcroft,
Yes.
Mr. Hood,
Yes.
Mr. Tets,
Abstain.
Mrs. Gomes.
Yes.
So
So
the yeses have it.
Motion passes. And now for the actual procedure. I would like to have a motion to have the chairperson be the person to sign, and if that person can't do it, the vice chair should sign.
Or the designee from the chair. That'd
Well,
be-
then you don't know who it is. Do they pick a different person every time? It kind of gets all over the place.
I think they could, and I think maybe that would.
Who's available?
Depend on availability, so.
Do we have to say anything, who signs?
You don't. Typically, when I need one signature, I always go to the chair first. And if the chair is not available, I go to the vice chair.
Vice chair's not available, then you go.
Right, I think in this situation, it would be very appropriate to have the chairperson sign. And if she cannot, then either the vice chair or a designee,
Or her designee.
Okay, that'll be better, okay.
right?
As long as the flexibility is in
Yeah,
there, just
yeah.
to designate, like if we have.
Yeah, just
I
to
think
be
as long
clear,
as the committee is in agreement.
the one, not the backup, but the original signer does need to be
Voted
designated.
on. All right, so let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'd like to have a motion to give the chair the designee for the signatures for all payroll warrants.
Be the chair, rephrase it, approval of the chair to approve and the or designee. Is
Okay.
that what you,
Yes, no, that makes, I'll add both.
okay.
So a motion to approve the vice chair and a designee to sign for the warrants and payroll
Yeah, designee by the chair. I would add that.
Okay.
by the chair. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the
Thank
motion.
you.
A second.
Thanks, Ron. Any discussion further? All in favor? Oh, do you want to do a roll call?
Mr. Howcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Tets?
Abstain?
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Passes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre, your next one.
Thank you very much. So next on the agenda is our FY24 budget timeline. I just want to give you guys a few minutes to pop that open in your documents if you haven't seen
It
it.
looks like this.
There's probably colors.
And again,
I've
this-
seen it and thank you.
Yes, I was going to say, and again, this was an item that was, vetted thoroughly through the budget subcommittee and approved to go to school committee for vote. The idea of this timeline, and I'll walk through a few of these lines, but I'm not going to go through the entire thing. The idea is that we're going to work backwards from, the town meeting anticipated in the spring till now, and have a thorough process in place that we're building the budget as a team in accordance with our strategic plan, and that it's not just one person locking themselves in their office and increasing line items based on percentages or inflation or things like that. So this process is going to encompass everyone. It's going to involve the teachers reporting to the principals about needs, the principals bringing that to curriculum, to student services, to myself, facilities bringing their needs to the table, and then all of us working together, eventually boiling down to the budget subcommittee and me and Dr. Bailey, to provide a recommended budget by the superintendent. And again, it's going to involve everyone, and it's going to make sense for the strategic plan, and it's going to address the needs identified by the teachers that are in the classroom and by the curriculum needs that we have here and the facility needs, and not just myself or someone else sitting behind a desk saying yes or no to these things. We're not in the classrooms every day. We're not in the environment. We don't know what is exactly needed, to provide to our students. And the goal for this agenda item is to approve this timeline and to work towards a level service budget. So there's three types of budgets. There's a need-based budget, which is essentially based on fact and aligns with the district plan, and that's that. There's a level funded budget, which is no cuts, no increases. The only adjustments are for cost of living increases. And then there's the level service budget, which is a budget that will allow us to provide the same services we have in the preceding years, and able to continue our success in the classrooms with our students, our MCAS scores, etc. So some target dates on this timeline. Tonight, approving the budget timeline calendar. November 8th, meeting with the school committee and the budget subcommittee and providing data, enrollment data for our schools, per pupil costs, what the trends are looking like over the past few years and what they're going to be moving towards in the future, and making sure that's the basis of our budget. A few things that needed to be rearranged that I just want to highlight. Capital needs requested to the town. We sent out a memo in September to get ahead of this, and the town surprised us on October 3rd saying that they needed capital project requests by October October 10th, which was a holiday, so essentially October 7th. And because we were ahead of the process, we had submissions already. Dr. Bailey, myself, and Steve Oulet of the facilities director were able to meet and prioritize the items to submit something to the town that we find of value and need, and we'll get to that later on too, but I didn't want to skip over that. So continuing on with the timeline, November internally we'll have staffing and expense requests submitted to the central office. We'll meet with the individual principals, the curriculum director, the special education student service directors, technology directors, facility directors, and again, vet out their budget and make sure that they can defend their needs and that they're reasonable. On December 22nd, before the new year, the superintendent will compile her recommended budget and submit it to the school committee. School committee will provide feedback, we will make changes, and we will print a budget book and prepare to post that to the newspaper and the websites to allow the public to take a look at it. Moving forward rather quickly, January 10th, after we made recommended changes based on feedback by the school committee, the public, etc., we will draft the superintendent's budget to move forward with, make it available to the public. That will bring us to February 7th, where we will have a school committee public hearing and discussion of the superintendent's budget and essentially approve her budget to go to vote for the Springtown meeting. March 7th, school committee adopts the operating budget and the capital budget. April, we present to the finance committee of the town, and then May, we present at the town meeting. So, it seems like a long process, but at the end of the day, again, we're working backwards from the Springtown meeting. We're not skipping any steps. It's a thorough process, and then by May, there won't be any surprises from anybody as far as the budget goes. We'll hope that it gets voted in at town meeting and we can move forward with wrapping up the end of the school year and moving on to fiscal 24. And throughout this process as well, I didn't go line by line on it, but there will be meetings with the town finance committee, the town accountants, keeping them in the loop. So again, there's no surprises. And that's just good to have conversation and make sure we're all on the same pages with timelines, deadlines, requests, type of funding that's going to be available, etc. So this might be new to everyone and something we're not used to, but this is a combination of a few districts' combined practices to put together the best practice that'll work for us. So that again, it's a thorough process involving our leadership team, our administrative team, to have us prepared by spring to have a budget that gets voted unanimously, hopefully.
I think the biggest change with this, if I could just interject, is that everything's moved up a bit, right? A lot of times we didn't start this process until after the holidays, but we're working on what we need now, and those conversations are happening. They're ongoing conversations. And also what I like about it is it's flexible, so that if something doesn't work out in one day, it's a working document, we have time to get back on track, and it's an outline to keep us on track. But it is a different schedule, so it is something that we are asking the committee for a vote on, because it is a schedule that we would like to follow.
Does anybody have any questions before we go to the motion? No. All right, so I'd like to accept a motion to approve the budget timeline for FY24 as written, allowing for adjustments for extenuating circumstances, because this is not going to be set in stone if anything happens.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Howcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Chaps?
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Passes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. So next agenda item, capital projects. So again, I spoke to this briefly in the budget timeline, and it snuck up on us, or for lack of better words, wasn't communicated to us timely. So we did the best that we could. But luckily, as I mentioned, we were ahead of it in the first place. So we were able to compile this document of our capital needs and requests for FY24 and beyond. And what this does is it outlines our requests by location, by school, and by priority, and then it gives an idea of what these types of requests are, how much money we're asking, how much money we're providing on our own, whether it's through grant funds, local funds, revolving accounts, etc. And I'll just run through the projects quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but with everything going on in the country, safety and security are at our forefront in schools, and this is our #1 priority. We'll hear more about this in executive session from the Colonel and his safety and security audit, but we all agreed that, this is a must, and what that breaks down to is security at all our entrances, all our doors. We have 16 plus doors at both schools, I believe. Again, we'll hear more about this in the audit, and we just want to make sure that people are accessing them appropriately or they're being monitored appropriately. So we're asking for funds for door security, asphalt maintenance. Again, so this falls under safety. This isn't just coming into the schools, but it's weather related. It's parking lot related, making sure we have just good structure in our asphalt so that there's no accidents. A fire alarm system, so our fire alarm system is very dated and needs to be replaced essentially. I did highlight that, and before this memo, or after this memo was put together, we realized we have about $70,000 appropriated to replace our fire alarm system, so that number can really be reduced quite a bit. Greenscape projects, signage around schools, and that's not the school signs, but that's entrance signs on the main buildings, that's security camera signs so that people know they're being monitored, that's field signs, that's do not enter signs, stop signs, things like that, just to make people aware of what's going on around the campus. Canopies, so those came up in the audit as well, which will be elaborated on later tonight, and that's again to protect our students from weather, getting on and off the buses, potentially slipping on ice in the winter. It gives them a safe walkway, whether it's into school or between the schools. And then a telephone system also falls into place there. We're going to move on to the next project that we're trying to prioritize, and that's our campus greenscape project. What's driving this is we have earmarked funds in ESSER that need to be spent by September 2024, and that's a big piece of it. But this is going to allow our grounds to look beautiful and accessible and put together nicely for our students and for the public. There aren't a ton of places in town that people go to use the amenities, so that opens the door for many citizens in the town, whether it's the tennis and basketball courts, a pavilion project that, again, we're flirting with our ESSER funds and potentially making a solar project so that it would come almost at no cost to us. And then just routine maintenance of cutting the grass, the shrubs, making sure our exits, we've noticed, pulling out of the parking lots, the shrubs and trees are overgrown, making sure those are cut back so that we can, see the streets, see the students, see the walkers. So that's our campus greenscape project, and then I'm just gonna, run through the rest of these pretty quickly. Technology infrastructure, we know the needs for that. We need Patrick Missler, Director of Technology, to put a better number on that, but that's gonna come with this 10-year plan, and that's at the forefront of our priorities. We'd like a facility audit just to see the needs for the structure of our facilities, what needs to be addressed, and that's, structure, boilers, furnaces, air conditioning. It's going to cover it all, and that'll really open up our eyes to outline a plan moving forward on where to spend money, what kind of money to ask for what projects, and potentially, the need for improvements, larger improvements to the school or replacement of schools. There's ceiling dehumidifiers. We're finding that there's some rooms that don't have enough airflow over at the elementary school where there's puddling on the floors on humid days. There's potential growth of mold and other things. We've addressed this in the past with ceiling dehumidifiers. We need a few more. Library upgrades. Again, we use our libraries and we continue to upgrade them, but it'd be nice to have central air in here. It'd be nice to have new bookcases, new books, just updated technology. So those have been requested by the principals and leadership and administration. So we'd like to address that. District office, again, HVAC, and again, this comes earmarked with some of our grant funds, but we are asking for a little bit more. Roof preventative maintenance, again, we just replaced the roof, but we want to be able to maintain it. I mean, we all own houses and know what it takes to maintain houses, not only the roofs, the floors, general repairs. Those are the next few items. The main offices need some remodeling. You know, this is the focal point of when our parents and other visitors come into the schools. FMS main office is dated, and we'd like it to just be updated as far as carpet and paint go to match, you know, some of the renovations we've done in the district office and just be more appealing. Air duct cleaning, again, you know, we're circulating this air. We want to make sure it's safe for the students to be breathing. You know, this was highlighted again with COVID and just the outdated systems that many schools have, so we're looking to address that. And then cafeteria equipment, and again, you know, it's nice to have a reserve that we can fund on our own, but if it came down to it, we do want this on the list to acknowledge that these are capital needs that we're paying for out of our pocket and could potentially need from the town in the future. And again, this is a working document. These are rough estimates of costs. You know, as these types of projects are approved, we really have to do our research, go out to bid, and dial in costs. So the numbers will fluctuate, but you know, this is the baseline of what we expect our needs to be.
I have a question. Do we have enough time to get estimates for like the first 10 or whatever we're gonna?
Absolutely.
Okay. I know that was an issue with our other capital improvement, with the bleachers and everything. We didn't have enough estimates, and they kind of were not happy with that.
Again, some of these come from already done research, but
Okay.
you know, my point was, as we delve into any of these projects, it could come in higher or lower at any given point, and that these numbers aren't set in stone. You know, things are still relying on supply chain, you know, cost of inflation, you know, things like that. So
I just want to make sure that before we give it to the town for a review, that we have at least one invoice to say, or one estimate,
yeah.
right? Just to.
So this
back
was,
up this
again,
number.
this was submitted to the town based on their timeline. It had
So
to
we
be
didn't have
submitted by
time to give
10/7.
them.
We're formally going to vote on it tonight, though, because
we worked-
this was,
No choice.
we
Yeah.
had no choice.
Okay.
And we worked with what we could, again, you know, through the different audits, we were given quotes, we were given estimates, you know, we did our Google searches, our internet searches, to find estimates,
Okay.
but I'm using that term loosely.
One question, did you say on the maintenance of the grounds, I think it's 55,000, does that include like maintenance of, we build the basketball courts, tennis courts, like is ongoing maintenance to make sure that we're...
Yeah, it's the campus grounds as a whole, and that 55,000 again is spread over 5 years. So this is our ask right now, but we're going to have the chance to present this every year, and if we find, again, the cost of maintaining increases, then we're going to have to revisit the ask and present it again.
Fair enough. I just wanted to make sure that whether here or somewhere, we're just factoring, we're going to spend a lot of money to update the courts, right?
Right.
And we want to maintain them
Absolutely.
once we do that.
Absolutely.
And I know, Mrs. Gomes, you asked about the timeline, but just to go back to reiterate, the point is we want it done well. We don't want to rush these projects. We really want quality. For example, like with the courts, we don't just want to quickly put new asphalt, okay? We want to look into something that, I don't know the name of it, but a certain type of surface area that they use for outdoor courts. And colorful, or, you know, just something
Pickleball.
that's going to enhance our campus.
Yes.
So we want it done well, and I know that Mr. Hood, you did volunteer to be on that committee. Well, with the tennis courts, we can add pickleball lines. Somebody's brought that up already, so we're open to all these ideas. We're excited that the town supported us last night on that.
So again, for this vote, we're not technically voting on these numbers, we're voting on an estimate.
Yeah, and the projects themselves. And just to keep in mind that we're very flexible with this. This is a working document that we work on with you. We talk about these things in budget subcommittee. We talk about these things in other meetings. So, you know, we're very flexible in terms of the order. But this is the way we prioritize them in terms of putting together a list quickly when it was call on us to do so, was the safety and security was first. They're all important things, obviously, but, and then the other thing is, we look at our grants and see what needs to be spent by what time. Some of those grants have to be spent by '24, and then the other, like, for example, the CPC funds don't have a date, not that we want to wait on that, but we have to kind of do things and make sure that we're doing things appropriately in terms of spending. And there's quite a few projects that are going on in the school right now, so we don't have a large staff to kind of be in charge of all of these, so somebody sort of has to quarterback these projects. So we want to make sure that these projects are done correctly and we're not just jumping into 20 different projects and they're not done with quality. You know what I mean?
I just have one question. You mentioned maintenance of grounds. You mentioned, when I observe the grounds, I don't see too many trees. And we're 500 feet from a recycling center, where brush and debris are ground up and so forth. About just 500 feet, you can hear them. And I'm just wondering if the addition of trees would absorb not only heat but sound and dust that could be coming from there. Have you looked into that?
I think that's something with the facility audit that we'd like to do.
Correct.
They can certainly look into that, and I have looked at samples, and we're looking at facility audits that are very thorough, and that is a point, Ms. McIntyre, if you could write that down, and make sure that when we do hire a vendor for that, that particular point is looked at. I think that's a perfect example of something we could certainly ask them
Thank you.
for.
So this motion that we're going to put forth is, again, we're agreeing to these capital improvement projects in order that it's submitted here, however, with price adjustments.
We're always open to suggestions, and it's a working document, so we're not married to the order, we're not married to all of the projects, but
Really, it's
these are the
just,
projects that came to us from our staff.
I just don't want to vote with these numbers and then they change and we have to revote this again.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think we were voting
Is that-
necessarily with the exact numbers, these are estimates.
it's really that the ideas and the projects on this list are appropriate and agreed upon, as needs seen by, administration, schools, and schools.
Like, you could say, I absolutely don't agree with this project, and we could take it off the list right now.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? This
Well,
is,
let's make a motion to see if, and then we'll have a discussion and then go from there.
And just sort of like, because there's, for example, technology project is on here, but we don't know yet what the cost is, right?
Right.
So I'm going to say
We do have
But
estimate.
some
again, it's
estimates.
identifying it as a capital need that,
Right.
we're gonna focus on dialing in.
So it's the
and
project,
coming
not
up.
just the
Right.
numbers. All right. So can I have a motion to approve the capital projects spreadsheet that we have here that was submitted to Town Hall, knowing that the amounts here are estimations? Can I have a motion?
I'll make them.
Do I
I'll
have a-
second that.
Okay, go.
Any further
Whatever Kelly
discussion?
wants to put in, but it's be fine with me.
Do we have any further discussion?
Mr. Harcraft?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Tebs?
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
thank you.
All right, we're almost there. So this one should be pretty quick. Disposal of surplus property. I already highlighted the needs for it during my business manager's update. There's a lot of space in this school that is cluttered, has a lot of, old existing, property and equipment sitting around, collecting dust, some in trailers, storage containers that we're paying money for. And again, the idea is we've assessed these, we've let the principals walk through, we've let the directors, administration all walk through, take a look at the items, see if they need them. At this point, we're requesting these 3 sheets of items to be declared as surplus and allow us to later identify whether they should be redistributed, sold, or disposed after being declared as surplus. So you all should have the sheets, but just to summarize, there's combination desks and chairs to the tune of about 100. There's wooden tables, totaling 8, plastic seats with metal legs, 18, individual student desks. There's a couple of assorted student chairs, about 50, Cubby bins and other bins, 5. And then desks, wood shelving, computer tables, toy boxes, chalkboards, white tables. And these are all identified with a condition code that follows your spreadsheet as well. And most of these are saying that they're in fair condition, but they're used. And again, just because they're on the sheet means we've deemed them as, useless to us at this time, and we'd either like to recycle them, sell them, or dispose of them, so.
And you sell them by how?
We would have to post them on the website, share, we could potentially share them with OSD to post on their website, make it available to the public.
But just to give you an example, a lot of the rusty, old stuff is going to be thrown away, and a lot of the stuff, like maybe computer tables that we no longer have a use for because we're one-to-one, those can maybe be sold, right?
Yeah, I think right. So the vote would be to declare them as surplus, and then
Right.
again, we would assess whether they should be, we as in, internally, Paula Bailey, Dr. Bailey and I, and Steve Ulay, the facilities director, would determine if we should try to redistribute them, sell them, or dispose of them. And, redistribute would maybe just making them accessible to the different town departments to see if they need them first, and then go from there, so.
I'd like to probably offer another option, which might be to donate.
That's my question.
I mean, donating could be a consideration, knowing how much it's costing for those containers as well.
That'll be
Absolutely a
something that
possibility,
internally-
yep.
For, but, I would think it'd need to be donated to a 501c3, some sort of formal nonprofit type organization, that type of thing.
I don't know if we can do that. Can you do that?
Again, the law that I'm familiar with is that if it's made available, it has to be available to the public, and at that point, if the public's not interested, we could determine-
Purchase for $1.
Exactly, and that's usually what you see is every item's listed for $1, first come, first served.
Yep.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the disposal of surplus property, please?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Tebs?
Yes.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you for that. And then last but not least, we are proposing, again, it's been vetted by the budget subcommittee as well, that we are able to post for a district administrative assistant. The needs from this arise from, the overhauling of our processes and revisiting them all to better align who does what in our business office and administrative departments. And first and foremost, just cross-training within the business office. Right now, we have one accountant that handles payroll, handles accounts payable, handles HR tasks along with the help of the superintendent's administrative assistant. If that person weren't able to be here at any given time, there would be no one to step in and take on that role. So that is one of the many needs. The other needs, it would be a position that would support the business manager, the curriculum and director of curriculum assessment and instruction, the facilities director, the tech director, the food service director, and then again, back up multiple roles. And what this would do is this would take away the clerical duties of all those positions and allow these people to act in their administrative roles. It would be helping manage the grants. It would be, compiling documents for procurement, going out for quotes and bids. It would be updating the websites, the school calendars, building forms. We just spent a couple weeks building forms for the budget, the FY24 budget process that easily, could have built one, handed it off, and had them take care of it, for every department. And that's one example of forms. They would handle transportation calls, route changes, communications. They would input POs for all the people that I instructed. It's one thing to have them on paper. Now someone's got to go in and type them all into the system, process them, so on and so forth. And again, the idea is that this person would be cross-trained on many things, so that this could be a fallback person. But in addition, they're taking away these clerical, lengthy tasks from our administrators, so that the administrators can focus more on their administrative duties.
So, John and I vetted this out thoroughly at our last budget subcommittee, and we asked questions of, why do we need this assistant? Like, are we top heavy? And is this a need? And I think it goes back to where we were told many years ago that we only needed a part-time curriculum director. Like, we're just a small school and there's no need for all of this. However, when Patrick went over all the things that our administrative assistants do and our administrators, it's like we're not getting our money's worth paying these administrators because they're just doing this menial work. And then the administrative assistants, they're helping out as much as they can, but they're very, they only know what they know. There's no cross-training whatsoever. And if, Kelly's out, or like he had mentioned, payroll person's out, there's nobody to take their place, which is very dangerous to run a successful district.
Yes.
So I think we're just moving forward here and just adding a person that is definitely needed. And, once things get streamlined, if we find out it's not needed a couple of years down the road, then the position could be removed.
It's always going to be reassessed.
So-
What's important is, looking at our processes and making sure they're aligned appropriately. And again, that the administration's not stuck in the menial tasks, which we're seeing a lot of,
And my biggest worry is having a payroll person be the only person who never takes a vacation and works her days off around our payroll. And God forbid if something happened, like, that is not a good way to run a school district with one person knowing nobody else knows how to do this, payroll and accounts payable and paying the bills. Very important to our running of our business, right? The thing that we're talking about tonight, it's informative. We have the money to move forward with it this year with our savings and grants. What we would propose to do, and we would work it into a proposal for the FY24 budget as a position, but we would actually like to get going on it now because we think it's very necessary. And we'll work with the budget subcommittee on this particular position and trying to get it into our budget for next year. But we do have the funding now to get that posted. And again, I just wanted to be sure with the committee that everybody was on board. I know the budget subcommittee was good with it, but I thought it was important to bring it to the committee.
John, do you have anything to add?
No, I just was impressed with the focus on, developing efficiency within and that was, other than your major concern too, was about, accountability, who does it when someone's out. But the second part is the efficiency, where people who are vital can be doing, things that, have a great deal of impact on a curriculum, for example, rather than, being bogged down in clerical work. But again, it's clerical work. I didn't want, is very important. But
of course.
It's the efficiency.
Of course.
Any other questions?
No, I just feel as though I think administrative compensation needs to be overhauled a bit, and I'm not going to support a new position at this point. So.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the addition of the district administrative?
Actually, sorry to interrupt, but there is no vote.
Sorry.
Because we haven't worked it out in the new budget,
Okay.
but we have the funding to move forward with it for this year. And then if we get it approved through the budget, then it would become a permanent position.
Yeah, we may very well, when we do the budget for the next fiscal year, may look at, some reorganization.
That's right.
Which would, have the position fit in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So, it may not be an increase in funds, but I think this is more like a semi-emergency type of step.
Honestly, this is what keeps me up at night, worrying about this situation. Because if something did happen, we are stuck. Because I can tell you right now, I don't know how to do it. Central office administrators don't know how to do that, the payroll. It takes very specific training for someone to be able to do that. And I never think it's a good idea to have one person anywhere kind of like hold the keys to something and not share that with others, I think cross-training is really important. When my assistant is out, for example, it would be nice if somebody was able to step in. If an administrative assistant is out in the building, we should have somebody stepping in. So the cross-training to me is super important in this district.
Dr. Bailey, could cross-training like that be a stipend position for somebody who's already here?
I think the issue with that is the people who are already here have full-time jobs, and they're already, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but they have their plates are full currently in their roles. So to give them more to do, we would want somebody to learn during the school day, not like after work hours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily thinking of like prominent administrative positions adding onto their plates, not by any means, but I was thinking more of like I'd say more of an administrative assistant type position. Could it be added on as a stipend and incentive for them to learn those additional roles that they may need to step into in the event of an emergency, although 99% of the time they're not going to need to perform those duties. I'm just curious if that's a potential option.
Yeah, it's just, right now I think we're pretty limited with secretaries and administrative assistants across the district. They're pretty stationed at their buildings. Their buildings are very, very busy.
I don't think it's a matter of money. I think
Yeah, I
it's a
don't
matter
think
of
it's-
physical time.
Yeah,
unless I'm understanding this
I agree.
correctly.
And just to reiterate too, not to interrupt, but cross-training is just one piece of this. It is very important, but the amount of clerical work that goes through the administrative level is, there's a lot of hours spent on clerical tasks, whether it's during, the 8 to 4s, or it's, we're sitting here after to 5 to 6, on the weekends, whatever it may be. There is a lot of clerical work, whether it's, emails back and forth with parents on, again, transportation, whether it's building forms to build efficiencies, whether it's, just communicating, processes and procedures or rewriting them. We're inundated with those types of tasks as we continue to evaluate everything.
I guess one question, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and they're not just serving one person. They're serving, the business office. Many districts, the principal has their own, admin assistant. Right now, that's shared with the main office tasks. The curriculum director has their own admin assistants. Right now, they don't have any, and it goes on and on. So.
So I guess my question would be, are there other roles that we're considering, new roles in the district, that this role is being prioritized over?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
Not that I'm aware of.
And I
at this
think,
time,
to
yeah.
be quite honest, over the past several years, we've added staffing based on our needs. But I think people are being really reasonable in their request as of lately, because we know that we cannot continue to add and add. As Mr. Howcroft said, if there's a savings that we can look at possibly, we will. And I've asked the principals that if you're going to add something, what are you taking away, okay? We need to make sure that we can sustain these budgets, but I think this particular ask and need is real. I recommend it fully, and I just thought it was important to bring this to the committee.
For the sake of time, is there any other things?
That's it. Just, closing words. The big picture is it's going to improve the product that we provide to our students, because it's going to give
And
administration
can I just say one more
availability
thing,
to
that
do their tasks.
prior to me arriving in Acushnet, there were 2 people in the business office, 2 clerical positions. One, I don't know what happened to, they never got replaced. So now this
But it
one
wasn't
person does both the payroll and accounts payable, not even really taking phone call. Like, it's very busy between the business office and my office. It's pretty busy. So, there was a position, we don't know what happened to it.
It was removed. I was on the committee.
It was what?
It was removed.
Oh, it's
It was
removed.
saying it wasn't needed,
Okay,
part-time.
yeah, I don't know what happened.
No, I'm telling you,
Okay.
that happened. It
Yeah.
was there. They said it wasn't needed, so I said, okay. So, it was, again, so.
As you can see with all the projects we're doing and all the work, there's a lot of things happening. And people need, we need bodies to do it.
All right, thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
McIntyre, very much. All right, moving to the school committee member reports. Does anybody have anything to add for tonight? No? All right, moving to communication and information, we have our district newsletter from October 2022. We have the Reads Quarterly Overview from September 2022, and we have the OML letter from the Attorney General. Any questions about those? No? All right. We are going to have executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, specifically in the matter of Amaral Bus Company versus Acushnet Public School, docket number 2273CV00012, approval of minutes of August 23rd, 2022. We're also going to discuss security personnel or devices, results of security and safety audit, Colonel David Gavigan, Bristol County Sheriff's Office. And then we are going to have our next regular school committee meeting, which will be held at the John Chavez Library in the Ford Middle School on Tuesday, November 8, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Okay, and now
Are we returning?
I'm going to get to that part right now and make sure it's accurate. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn this regular session meeting and move to executive session not to return?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Howcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Tebs?
Yes.
And Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.